Payday 3 is still very much a live game, with busted weapons and mechanics coming and going with each patch. After the Houston Breakout DLC went live, my previous best build was instantly outdated as the precision shot skill was changed, meaning that slightly disorientating scoped SA playstyle was no longer totally busted. However, that same patch also added an important new survivability mechanic and a new shotgun to fill the dozer-deleting, ludicrously powerful primary slot the SA had just vacated. So obviously, I need to update my best build video, although this time I simply couldn't decide on an outright best, which I think is a good thing. Instead, I'm going to showcase two incredibly optimized builds for overkill as of the Fear and Greed update to give you a solid option regardless of your preferred playstyle. One is an incredibly clean, no-frills Aggro setup, using what I believe to be the most all-around busted weapon in the game after the precision shot nerfs, alongside self-sustaining adaptive armor. The other is closer to my preferred playstyle, leveraging the M7 Pursuivant 3-round burst shotgun to rip and stunlock your way through hordes of SWATs, while staying afloat using a mixture of assassin and instantly replenishable standard lining plates. Overall, there aren't substantial differences in the skills that go into running these builds, which is really because the damage and survivability meta has been very much solved at this point, so unless there's a massive skill overhaul on the horizon, I don't expect much will change between now and the end of the year. Also, feel free to take these templates and insert whatever weapons you want to if you don't own any DLC. To tell the truth, DLC weapons have power crept the majority of the base game's offering, although I also think it's fair to say they're filling important gaps in the weapon meta, so if there's any DLCs I can comfortably recommend, it would be the 4 weapon packs. But the VF7S and KU59 are still fine options if you don't own the Aggro, although it's really difficult to emulate the shotgun playstyle, as the Mosconi is good but can't be silenced, so won't synergize with Assassin. As for secondaries, the situation's honestly even more dire. I'd probably stick to the Tribune 32, which was the free weapon added in the Houston Breakout update. If you want access to more fun builds, sadly those weapon packs just feel like the cost of admission at this point. Jumping right in, let's run through the super serious one-shot AR focus setup first. In the year since Payday 3 came out, not much has changed in terms of what makes a weapon good. Being able to consistently land a one-shot headshot kill on all standard enemy types, up to and including heavy SWATs, just makes you the king. The Aggro RG5 did exactly what the VF7S did all the way back at launch, just better in every single way. They both hit the one-shot kill threshold with edge, so damage is moot, and the Aggro is indisputably easier to handle, fires faster, and can be ran with a massive 35-round mag to boot. Equipped with the Sheath RDS, Piper Silencer, CQC barrel, cut-tack grip, extended mag, HQ stock, and rigger handstop. This thing is a monster. It's easy to aim consistently, satisfying to shoot, and immensely efficient in the right hands. Outside of a slightly lengthy reload animation, it fundamentally doesn't have any drawbacks, and is comfortably the best all-around primary in the game. When looking for something similar in the secondary slot, look no further than the Desert Eagle, known rather inexplicably as the Garstini Viper. This thing is just as powerful as the Aggro, also hitting that one-shot threshold with ease, but with a much faster reload speed to reset buffs and the ability to one-shot shields through their faceplates. Prior to the last update, this is why the bull kick was so highly favoured, as without shot grenades, shields are the most consistently frustrating to take down unit type in the game, but that one shot to the visor makes a mockery of their increased resistance. Run it with the S-Baller suppressor, coarse ergo grip, and the LED RDS sight for an all-round excellent switch-in that can just take over where your Aggro left off, whilst also maximising reload speed, filling a minuscule blind spot in this build and leaving it pretty close to unstoppable. Into the skills, from top to bottom, we grab Medic, Extra Charge, and Combat Medic, as I do still just favour Medic bags at the moment for the safety net they provide. Ammo Specialist into the powerful Scrounger and Plate Up. We go Mower next, before specialising into the usual Ammo Funnel Replenish combo. They wanted to nerf these skills for a reason, so it'd be daft to admit the game's most iconic duo from a meta-style build. In Tank, we just grab Clean Slate before heading down to Sharpshooter for Longshot. In Escapist, I've recently made the move over to disengage on this build. I hate to do it because it feels like it shouldn't be necessary, but cloakers in this game are probably the greatest threat you will face with this kind of tough to break down setup. Having at least one opportunity per heist to free myself has already saved multiple runs, so it's hard to not recommend carrying this skill if you have a spare point to spend. If cloakers eventually get a nerf, I'd love to be able to drop it, but for now it just feels like a necessary evil. Moving on, in Enforcer, we need the usual combat reload for grit and edge resets, whilst I'm dropping 2 points into Manipulator and Negotiator on just about all of my builds at the moment. The constant utility of being able to speed up and triple the reward for trading a civilian is insane value at just 2 skill points, especially with the consumable system being as easy as it is currently to abuse. However, if you know you have a crewmate who's heavily specialised in Manipulator with skills like Silver Tongue and Menacing, feel free to drop these skills for something like Medic Ace and Code Blue for easier revives, or even Tank and Hardy if you want a better matchup into Bulldozers. Moving down, we pick up the usual Transporter skills, Beast of Burden, Deep Pockets and Powerlifter, which belong on basically all builds unless you're expressly playing the loot bagless Fear and Greed. Fortitude is still a great skill line, although I have learned to optimise it further these days, only grabbing the base skill and Paynas Embolia for huge buffs as well as stockpile to improve our medic bag even further. Finally, a little bit of spice as we go for a hybrid assassin package, grabbing Killer Kinesthetics and Assassin's Metal alongside Death Knell for a second line of defense. The basic idea is to have a form of passive healing that's always active once I lose my first adaptive armor plate, as the healing will only kick in once down to your final chunk of armor. I don't rush to lose that plate, but I do play as if it's expendable because we should always have access to more plates via armor repair kits and clean slate. This allows us to build up a wall of adrenaline to protect that armor and frequently activate Paynas Embolia for increased rush and grit in particular. It's a really solid option to have, and passive healing is hard to come by in Payday 3, so it feels like a worthwhile detour for any suppressor carrying build to consider. That's it for the skills. We obviously bring a medic bag for extra clutch heals and down resets, smoke grenades to activate Death Knell efficiently, adaptive armor which can be maintained by plate up, and the trip laser, which is a truly excellent tool that can easily cover around 50% of any high spawns given how predictable they are. Drop it in any hallway or clear choke point to get the most out of it, and not only will it forewarn you of enemy types and positions, it'll mark them for Assassin's Metal healing. In my eyes, it totally outclasses all other tools, at least for loud. Finally, this might be an unpopular choice, but we're going for the HET5 Red Fox Overkill weapon. I know the minigun is great fun, but this build doesn't actually have a great matchup versus Bulldozers, and the Red Fox is still king at taking them down with just a pair of body shots. It's not a great idea to face tank them unless you want to chew through multiple plates in the process, so having a proper long distance dozer deleting option is crucial. If you do just want to be able to wander up to dozers with no fear at all, the second build I'm about to show you is probably more your speed, so hang in there a little longer. As for how this build plays, you're really a master of all resources with it. You have a fully replenishable armor type with adaptive plus plate up, giving you an anarchist style regen mechanic upon kill. You have an almost endless source of these plates, giving you a running manipulator and clean slate to keep refreshing them if they do break. Then you have additional healing once down to your last plate with Assassin, enabling you to make that armor even more sturdy or just keep topping off your health bar to replenish the direct damage dealt by Nader gas. And finally, you still have 2 well-stocked medic bags in your back pocket, which won't offer a ton of healing with our skill specialization, but will of course reset downs when necessary and provide a hit of instant adrenaline if you need overheal heading into a fight. With Disengage, you even have an option up against crowd control, meaning if you do go down or into custody with this build, you can probably pin it on a misplay you made, as opposed to a hole in your setup. Of course, kill potential is getting more and more crucial, as cop spawns on overkill are getting to be a little overwhelming from update to update, which is why a one-shot kill option feels almost crucial now for any good build, especially if you're like me and enjoy taking on overkill difficulty solo. Both weapons in this setup are fully capable of that, and Payday 3 uniquely rewards you for picking up kills quickly with how its drama system functions. More on that in a future video, but for now just understand that's a huge reason why 4-player heists are so much easier than those with 1 or 2 human players in a lobby. Kills per minute actually matter for creating space and limiting spawns, so this is an ideal build for carrying the squad through any heist. I really think this is the most rounded setup you can put together in the game with the fewest flaws, although I don't believe it's necessarily the most fun you can have. Which is why I decided to make this build video a double whammy, including what I believe to be an equally monstrous build with higher highs, although the potential for lower lows if played incorrectly. Regardless, it's my favourite build in the game right now that is simply unmatched when it comes to its fun factor. The M7 Persuasion is possibly my favourite Payday weapon of all time, full stop. It's a monster of a shotgun which fires in 3-round bursts, but yet still has the ability to land one-shot kills. You might ask, isn't that inefficient? But I'd argue it's anything but. That burst mechanic ensures that even if you're not landing lethal shots, you are at least dealing damage across an extended duration, giving you a much higher chance of stunning the SWATs you don't decimate instantly, making this one of the most survivable shotgun playstyles, as the cops will have a really hard time firing back at you once you're in the flow of things. Equipped with the CQC barrel, extended mag for a whopping 21 shots loaded, bolstering stock, compact RDS sight, 12G obelisk silencer because yet again we'll be splashing a bit of assassin into this build, no grip, and the stub vertical grip for improved hipfire accuracy. In the secondary slot, there's really no reason to mess around. The Deagle is just king right now, especially in assassin builds that needs access to a suppressor, meaning the bull kick isn't up for consideration. As a hipfire focused weapon, I don't think the Deagle is quite as strong or consistent, but it's still the top performer out there with that one-shot headshot to shields, making it an asset to virtually any setup. I do also enjoy the Piccio 5 though if you want to switch things up here. Moving on to skills, things start very similarly, with Medic, Extra Charge, and Combat Medic. You just can't deny the power of post-revive invulnerability, although I should point out it's much harder to maintain grit on this build, so keep that in mind. Ammo Specialist into Scrounger is standard for me now, and more into Ammo Funnel and Replenish hardly needs any explanation. Ammo Funnel feels great on shotgun builds in particular, and we don't even run combat reload on this one, meaning no need to worry about reloading at all if we're economical enough. In tank we grab Hardy and Clean Slate, with Hardy being one of the real linchpin skills in this build, as it allows us to be a lot more aggressive with our plates. In Manipulator, I once again grab Negotiator, with the same caveat I mentioned in build 1 still applying here, although this time it really is essential you maintain access to armor repair kits, if possible, as you won't have as many defensive resources. In Gunslinger, we just go for From the Hip to tighten the hipfire spread, predominantly to help with DPS up against dozers, but more on that later. In some of the gameplay you're seeing, I did run Gunslinger Aced for easy edge resets instead of Combat Medic. This felt pretty good, although just switching weapons back and forth is hardly a massive distraction, so I think if you want to optimize, you will probably run it this way. Transporter skills are there, as ever, boring and omnipresent. I do think something needs to be done to build some of what Transporter is about into the heister's base abilities to avoid these being must-haves. We commit slightly harder into Fortitude as this build is more dependent on the protection Adrenaline offers, picking up Unyielding and Super Physiological alongside Pain Embolia and Stockpile this time, as the standard lining gives 4 downs, which is worth a fair bit more health compared to Adaptive Armors 2. Again, in Assassin it's just Killer Kinesthetics, Assassin's Metal and Death Knell to round off the build. Once more we run Medic Bags, Smoke Grenades and the Trip Laser for their healing and assassin synergy. Medic Bags in particular are useful to instantly overheal and activate Grit whenever you need the invulnerability Combat Medic offers. Our armor, as I've previously alluded to, is the single plate standard lining, giving us the fastest possible recharge rate and movement speed. I think this is an interesting debate to have with yourself. By going with the standard lining, you're doubling down on the dependence on armor repair kits or adrenaline, but you're also getting a more streamlined playstyle based around that. In isolation, one plate of standard armor is more protective than adaptive. It also means Assassin's healing properties will always be active for this build, and you're less reliant on picking up kills to sustain your armor as you don't need plate up. However, there will be a period on any heist where you feel very exposed prior to the first wave ending and being able to trade civilians. Up until that point, you only have a single plate and your health pool plus any adrenaline you can muster to keep afloat. My usual approach is to sacrifice a medic bag during this section of the heist, just to keep topped up, because this build really does grow stronger as you make it later into the heist, allowing you to stack up resources and ready to turn your standard lining into a makeshift heavy ballistic lining via consumables. Also, don't sleep on the armor repair kits with preset spawn locations, such as these little saviors on Boys in Blue. They'll tide you over for at least that first wave. Finally, we run the M135 Argus on this build. It's simply too fun to ignore. I've learned to be sparing with its usage, as it can result in you taking unwanted damage at times, but its power up against vast groups of cops is undeniable, and you're also not as dependent on your overkill weapon for dealing with dozers, as the Pursuivant Shotgun is far and away the best primary in the game for that specific task. With solid accuracy, you can beam a bulldozer from full health to dead in just 3 bursts, easily out DPSing them with the assistance of the damage immunity Hardy offers. Basically, so long as you trust your aim, you can always go neutral and self-sustain up against dozers with this build. Just run up outside their kicking range, tank through your armor plate and take them down before they can do any permanent health damage, replacing the plate you have lost with a nice fresh one from the dozer's corpse. With dozers being such a common obstacle right now thanks to Combat Duo, having an option like this to simply nullify their threat is a godsend. Even more so than we did with the Adelig setup, chaining kills on spotted cops is crucial to your overall survivability, not just to activate Grit and Pain Embolia, but also because Adrenaline is more integral to the playstyle, rather than being a nice afterthought. You will need to be aggressive with the setup, and although its stun potential is unbelievably potent, you will take chunks of unavoidable damage and need to heal up through it from time to time. I use smokes more aggressively too, and try to take fights within the smoke, instead of just using it as a marking tool, as this build is much more about quick and decisive target acquisition at close to medium range, rather than picking everything off methodically. If you get that core playstyle down, the M7 packs more than enough of a punch to deal with groups just as quickly as the headshot machine, which is the Aggro, affording you just as much space, which is crucial on harder difficulty solo. Personally, this build just really resonates with the style of play I've always enjoyed watching and partaking in, and I do think its uniquely strong matchup versus bulldozers gives it a slight edge in some combat scenarios. Overall though, the first Aggro build is more versatile and probably safer to use, not suffering as acutely from the same early blind spot that standard lining does before the resources start to flow. I'd also suggest have a think about the sorts of challenges you expect to face in a heist. On something like Cook-Off, adaptive armor really shines as it takes some weight off your resources, whilst heists that have a particularly large pool of civs or with extreme choke points like No Rest for the Wicked or Touch the Sky really lean into the shotgun playstyle, which is exactly why I wanted to spotlight both builds in this best build video. What I would say is they share 22 of the same skills between them, which to me at least are the core foundations of any top tier highly viable setup at the moment. If you're looking for a simple template which you can add your own spice to for a meta build tailored around your preferred playstyle or weapon types. Me personally, as much as I enjoy the core of these builds, I do wish there was more for us to consider to really differentiate how it feels to play Payday 3. I'll keep requesting a skill rework like a broken record until all hope is gone, so remember to keep doing likewise if the whole grit edge rush thing just isn't doing it for you anymore. Thanks so much for watching, check out Apex Gaming PCs if you haven't already for some early October deals, and I'll see you all in the next video coming later this week. Take care. A huge thank you to my dedicated Patreon backers. If you want to join this crew in going infamous, check out the link below and pledge as little as $2 to see your name in the credits, or get 24-hour early access to future videos and vote on upcoming content. Take care, I'll see you all soon.